Hello everyone, and welcome back to the third installment in the Reviewing Piggy fan game series. I'm assuming you already have, but if you haven't, check out the other two videos. This is going to be a shorter intro due to the fact that I've already said the same things like a million times by now. But, just to quickly recap, Piggy is a game on Roblox and is very popular. I don't really like Piggy, but past Dat Flipping Tomato loved it. Since Piggy is so popular, many fan games have been made in its honor. I'll be looking at 3 of them in this video. Some of these games were requested in previous videos, so if you guys want to see me review even more Piggy fan games, leave them in the comments. But without further ado, let's just get straight into it. The first game we'll be looking at is Piggy Unstable Reality. This is a game I was actually looking forward to reviewing a bit, simply because the person who recommended it said it was very mixed in the eyes of the Piggy community. So I wanted to dive headfirst into this game, and this game sure is interesting, alright. Allow me to tell you the premise of Piggy Unstable Reality. You, the player, are transported into the Roblox Piggy universe by God knows what, and come face to face with the character you play as in Piggy. Except this isn't just a normal Piggy game. No, instead, everything is different. Chapter 1's house layout is different, rooms are mismatched, and the Piggy herself looks odd, to say the least. And don't get me started on the audio. Most sound effects and music are cranked up in the loudness department. This doesn't improve the gameplay in any way, it just comes across as a lazy way to add more depth to the gameplay. Instead of making everything loud enough to destroy a man's eardrums, they could have just reversed the audio or lowered it to get the same effect. But that's enough of that tangent. Let's talk about the actual gameplay now. Starting with Chapter 1 House, in the opening cutscene, the real-world player is brought to the Piggy Book 1 universe. The main character meets the player and they get knocked out by the Piggy. Since the player is an epic Piggy gamer in real life, they know what will happen to the characters, so the community can vote to save the characters or not. Except the game tells you this feature in the cutscenes. Not only that, there's a lot of unfunny jokes that made me sigh more than laugh. But maybe I have to be an epic Piggy gamer to understand these jokes about ships or something. I believe the map layout gets way better in the later maps, but Chapter 1 is kinda mid. I never found the gameplay challenging, especially since the Piggy got caught on walls a lot. But other than that, there's nothing else to mention. The gameplay is mostly just the OG Piggy. So let's move on to Chapter 2. Everything I said about the dialogue before applies here, except I forgot to mention that there's a surprising amount of bad grammar. But after playing Piggy fan games for the past year, this is kind of normal. So I won't deduct too many Piggy points from this game. But how is the gameplay? At this point in time, almost nothing improved. There's this part in the map where you have to climb up a big ass vent, except the Piggy bot can't follow you up the vent, so it's super easy to just hide. But that's the only noteworthy thing that happens. The map design is just like Chapter 1, where everything is just swapped, so I believe it's just better to move on. I was gonna play Chapter 3, but I thought it was better to play a more recent map instead, so I decided to play the latest map, Carnival. And I won't talk about the cutscene since I have no idea what's going on, and the entire map is just a cutscene. That's right, no gameplay at all. The reason for this was because the player was a whiny, annoying piece of meat and didn't want to play the map. So you just sit there and read super epic dialogue and meta jokes like Rick and Morty. But I believe it's time to give my final thoughts on the game. After looking at some more footage, I believe this game isn't the worst thing I've ever played. I know. Very nice of me. But I believe the creator should take the unfunny humor and turn it down about 99%. This fan game has a very interesting concept, but it's brought down by silly things. But with that, let's just move on. The next game I'll be playing is Piggy the Lost Book. This is a game I heard a lot about on Twitter, mostly because of the fact that Chapter 4 for this game has been delayed for a very long time. Also, apparently this game is canon or something. Someone more educated than me on this subject can comment down below if that's true or not. This game was actually highly requested. I'm assuming it's because Minitoon, the creator of Piggy, has something to do with it. But enough about that nerdy stuff. Let's just start with Chapter 1, the subway. To start everything off, the map looks amazing. There's a ton of details everywhere. Simple things like posters on the walls and rooms with tons of objects add a lot to the map. This is definitely one of the better Piggy fan games in terms of design. The gameplay is just normal Piggy, but it seems a lot easier. I've never had any trouble when I played this game. The AI can sometimes glitch out, but I'll get into that more when I talk about the second chapter. Aside from all that, Chapter 1 is a great start for this game, but let's move on to Chapter 2, the arcade. The arcade is an incredibly small map. Items usually spawn beside each other and the player just kind of walks back and forth a lot. And like I said a couple seconds ago, the bot completely stopped following me at some point, which sucks because this map looks incredible as well. There's a lot of details in this map too, so I was hoping the gameplay would match up to everything else. And I'm not even sure why the bot glitched out to begin with. It kind of just stood still and started tweaking. But aside from that, Arcade's design carries heavily. If it wasn't for the fact that the AI started freaking out, this map would have been a lot better. But I'm assuming this is one of the reasons this game is getting a huge remaster soon. The devs are probably aware of all the bugs and are most likely trying to fix it. Last thing I want to discuss about this map is the size and events. I briefly mentioned it before, but the map feels way too small. I wish there were more things to do. In the OG Piggy, there were events in the carnival and mall maps where you can play games to get items. I really wish the game added things like that, but you kind of just collect the same old keys. Aside from that, this map is pretty good. But let's move on to the final chapter, the warehouse. And this map is kind of mid. It looks too similar to the hospital map, the layout feels the same and it looks really ugly. Maybe that's what they were going for, but it still doesn't help it from being pretty boring. But don't worry, the bot actually worked this time. Who knew I'd be excited because of the bare minimum? But that's enough mean words. What did I actually like about the map? And what can it improve on? The map still has a lot of nice details that keep my eyes entertained. I wish there were more variety though. Staring at the boxes and pipes does get a bit boring after a while. A couple posters and, you know, colors other than brown might do the trick, but that's enough of my complaining. I believe Piggy the Lost Book is a pretty good game. It just needs a bit of fixing and it'll be a great game. I recommend checking it out if you haven't already. It's pretty fun to a casual player like myself that doesn't like the millions of Piggy by Extreme games. But that's enough about that. Let's just move on to the final game. The last game I'll be playing is Piggy Rebooted. Once again, this game was recommended by a lot of people. To put it simply, this game is a total reimagining of the original Piggy. That means there's a new story, new map layouts, new models, and etc. And the models don't look totally awful this time. The game has a total of 4 chapters at the moment, but I'll only be playing the first 3. Starting off with Chapter 1, House, the opening cutscene looks pretty well made. It looks 100 times better than the original Piggy. It has more animations, more details, and you can see the perspective of different characters. That's right, you don't immediately play as yourself. You take control of Georgie and try to escape the brand new house map. Speaking of the new house map, how does it look? I believe the layout of this map is much better than the original house. There isn't much open area and it actually looks like a house. The detail in it is actually surprising. There's a lot of objects lying around. The game has also removed the ability to crawl. That means there's no quick escape for the players. Speaking of the gameplay, this game has the most disgusting camera. It does this weird motion every time you move to add more realism. Instead, it makes me sick when I'm trying to turn my head. I hope they turn this feature down or at least add the ability to turn it off. Moving on, this game, like Piggy, has a list of abilities on the left side of your screen. These abilities give you an advantage in escaping the map. You are able to use these abilities whenever you want, although if you do use an ability, it will need to recharge. But that's enough about Chapter 1. Let's move on to Chapter 2, The Station. The station has you take control of Doggy as he tries to search for the player. Once again, this map has a ton of small details. It really feels like a local police station and not an odd-looking prison. Even the basement looks a lot better than the original Piggy. I believe this map is a little too small and tight, especially since later in the map, more enemies spawn. And these enemies have the weirdest AI ever. They will randomly stop following me around for a little bit, then appear around a corner. The layout of this map mostly reflects the original station map, so I kinda knew what I was doing since I'm basically the greatest Piggy player ever. The map has a lot of different colors, lighting, and other things that keep the player entertained. The original Piggy Book 1 maps had little to no detail, so it's nice to see this game improving in that department, but I feel like the map can be too dark in some rooms, especially the basement. Sometimes it was hard to see if an item was in one of those dark places. So maybe add a bit more lighting in these dark rooms and the problem would be fixed. And, like the first map, this chapter has incredibly well animated cutscenes. I believe this map is pretty well made, but has some easy to fix issues. But I believe it's time to move on to the final chapter of this video, Ruined Gallery. This map takes dark to the next level. The entire map has little to no lighting, except for the occasional flickering light. And I believe that does it more harm than good, especially since it's hard to differentiate one room from the countless others. I found myself getting lost incredibly easily and not knowing where the hell I was going. So already, I don't like this map very much, but the AI on this map actually works a little bit differently. Piggy will spawn once in a while and chase the player at incredible speeds. So while you're running away, you're also trying to navigate through the confusing map. I get that the map is supposed to look abandoned, but why are there so many clashing colors? It just doesn't help the map in any way. Aside from those things, the map is also incredibly forgettable. But I do believe it's time to move on to my final thoughts. I actually enjoyed these fan games. Were they amazing? No. Were they entertaining? I believe so. Each game has something it needs to work on, some more than others. But I believe each creator did a great job at making a fun game. But I'm gonna end things here. For my next Piggy Fan Games video, I want you guys to list off some of the best fan games for me to review. I might even dedicate an entire video if I think it's good enough. It can even be a previous fan game I reviewed if you believe I should re-review a game. But I'll see you guys in the next one.